Hey guys, Matt here, RCGroups.com. Thanks for tuning in to this video tutorial. And on the bench here in front of me, it might look like your average MS Composite Swift wing from Ready Made RC. And it is, but what's special about this is that it weighs absolutely nothing, even with all the electronics on board and these spars I've added in it. Which brings me to the reason that we have this on the table, is that I'm going to put together a high-performance FPV wing that is capable of going out to some distance. It's capable of high-performance flying, long-duration flying, but we're going to do this under the FAA minimum for registration of 249 grams, which is 0.55 pounds, also known as the weight of 2 sticks of butter. You can get all of this stuff from Ready Made RC, the majority of the items that I'll be using. And I've already assembled the wing. We're using the 21-inch Ready Made RC MS Composite Swift. And this is their recommended flight pack that is included, that you can purchase on Ready Made site. Just comes with a Twister X 10 amp, got your brushless motor here, and a pair of Turnigy 9-gram servos. So the only thing I have done to take some of the flex out of the wing, because it has no spar, is to add some carbon fiber 3mm strips all the way down on both sides. So let's go ahead and look at some of the components we'll be using in this build. First, we have the Cricket 600 video transmitter from Ready Made RC. Now this is a very lightweight unit, puts out 600 milliwatts, and it can power some of your gear on here with a 5-volt out and can take 20 volts input, up to 20 volts input, so it's 4S safe. But in this build we'll be using a 3S, so that's not a problem. Now you can take the case off of it, but it only weighs a few grams and it's not going to be necessary for this build. But if you do want to lose a little weight, I guess you could actually take that off of here. And we have the IB Crazy Video Aerial Systems 5.8 whip antenna that we'll be using. Now for control, we have the Dragon Link long-range system, as well as a Dragon Link mini copter version of their receiver. Now this has built-in antenna on it to save some weight, and we'll mount this out on the wing here with the red sticking up and this one sticking through. This is good for miles if you have the battery power and the video link for it. These are good long-range systems. You don't have to use this in this build, but this is what I'm using. You can use a regular old Spectrum, Futaba, JR, whatever type of transmitter Taranis that you use. Our camera is a Ready Made RC Pico camera with 480 TVL, good high-resolution, lightweight camera with audio. And I've built a very small mount on my 3D printer. You can make this out of wood, or you could just mount it right here, but what we'll do is stick that in, mount the camera on top like so, to give us a nice slight downward angle, because the planes usually fly, the wings fly with a slight nose-up attitude, so we can face this down and see more of the ground instead of more of the sky. Now here's an interesting part of the build that I'm adding in. This is a Minim micro OSD with voltage RSSI capabilities, and I'm using a Eagle Tree GPS on here so I can have full airspeed, direction to home, GPS coordinates, altitude, anything that you can have GPS, this covers. And this whole system is really lightweight. I've got all these wires on here for testing purposes, just for setup, and we'll go over how to set this up and all sorts of stuff like that. But this is a great addition to a micro platform that's going to be under the FAA's 249 grams to add full functionality without the weight of a OSD with return to home, with direction to home capabilities. And last but not least is our battery. And this is one of the most important parts, because you're going to want to try to get as much longevity out of your flying as you can. And this is just about 1,000 milliamps of 3S power here. You got 950 milliamp Turnigy Nanotech at a 50C discharge. Now, this ESC is only 10 amps, So we don't really need the 50C pack, but I had one on hand, and it'll mount nicely on here, allow me to move it here and there for getting the balance right, and still be relatively lightweight. So let's go ahead and weigh everything, and I'll show you that we do indeed come in under 249 grams. We've got our postage scale here. All right, we'll wrap this up on top. There we are, 105 grams for the wing. That's pretty lightweight. Add in the battery. Got 172. Add in the VTX. 195. Add in the OSD with all this crazy wiring on here that will be removed. And we're only at 211 grams. Now we'll add in our Pico camera, the little stand I made, the Dragon Link receiver. We'll also put on this ready-made RC power filter for clean power. And speaking of filters, we'll use one of these toroid filters as well. Actually, we're going to use a couple of them, but I'll just put one on here for now. There we are, 232, well under 249. We're good to go. So let's go ahead and build this wing out and get her started, and I will update you along the way. All right, so here's an update on the installation aspect of the build. We have our ready-made RC Cricket 600 mounted here on the wing. We've got the Dragon Link copter module mounted here on the other side. Got our camera mounted on this little 3D printed platform that I've made. You don't need to use one of these. It could actually break off if it flips over. There's not a lot of mass in this, so I think the antenna might absorb more than actually hitting on the camera here. But if you don't want to use a little platform to get the camera up off of the body of the plane, you can actually just mount it straight to the foam here. We have our power filter from Ready-Made RC that's going to supply the power to the VTX and the camera, and we're using toroid filters on both the camera and the VTX to reduce any interference that may travel on the lines here. I have the servo wires run, they're cut into the foam here and then glued over so you don't have any issue with structural integrity. Now you'll notice that I don't have the VTX and the receiver mounted way out on the wing, and there's a reason for that, two reasons actually. The first is that the farther I go out on the wings here, the more aft I'm going to make the CG, and it's going to be hard with the battery to get that CG right without adding some lead weight. So I've moved them in close enough to where we have a good balance point with the battery on here like so, and everything is going to balance well without adding any lead weight. The other reason is that the farther that you go out with this VTX, the more drag that is going to be felt, and it's going to make the wing want to pull to whatever side that the antenna is on. I've experienced this before on larger flying wings when I take the antenna and put it way out on the edge out here. At fast speeds, it does want to yaw to the direction of the antenna. So by moving it in, we mitigate that a little bit by reducing the pull on the outer edge. It's just part of flying here, especially with these antennas on lightweight aircraft. The faster you go, it's going to want to yaw in that direction. So I think we've got good space here between the two. Using the filters throughout, it shouldn't be any problem. So thanks for tuning in to the first part of this build, and in the second part we'll get the OSD wired up, we'll get everything finalized, and I'll show you how we set up the OSD, and then we'll go out and test it and put this little baby to work, see how well she performs, and hopefully we have what I claim, a very high performance wing under 250 grams. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.